Welcome to the Great Distraction.
How's it going, folks? This is the Great Distraction, and today the topic of discussion is beer. My name is Ben, and with me today are my co-hosts Joe,
Salud,
Thomas,
Hello.
and Glenn.
Cheers, mate.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. We thank you for joining us. The Great Distraction is a podcast that focuses on a vast and random range of topics, and we hope that each episode leaves you with, if nothing else, something to ponder. We have been wanting to do this episode for just a little bit.
Just a little while. Maybe since the inception of the podcast.
That's quite possible.
Pretty sure that was about
yeah.
the time this came around.
Definitely, there were a couple of them that we've had, and this is we've been saving and wanted to do since the very beginning. This is definitely one of them. We all know and love beer. It is an all-time a favorite pastime, and let me get a little of that here. Yeah, and I mean, who doesn't?
We're
like
passing
beer?
samples around.
That's it, yeah. So throughout this episode, we're going to be partaking in a random amount. I know Thomas brought a few. I brought a few. We all kind of pitched in, so we'll all have something to sip on through the whole episode.
and what we've opened here first is Track 7's Left Eye, Right Eye.
Yeah, Track 7's a real cool. Go ahead.
For those of you who don't know, it's local to Sacramento. I think it's been around for about 5 or 6 years, and it has just taken off. One of my favorite things about it is, the brewery is really cool, dog-friendly, family-friendly. They always have different food trucks about it, and they've really done their business model well. But their beer is very palatable. It's not too hoppy for people who don't like a lot of hops, and it seems to have a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah, all their brews are very user-friendly, so it's pretty much you're guaranteed to find something you like out of it. So we wanted to start this off a little bit with a little bit of background history of beer. Nothing heavy, just some quick, interesting facts that we thought were kind of cool. And Joe found a lot of really cool, funny facts that are both history and just humorously related. So he'll be sprinkling those in as we go. And I know Glenn's got a little bit too that he wants to drop in there. There it goes. It is one of the oldest drinks that humans have produced. I mean, we've been making this stuff since the dawn of...
We've been drunk for a really long time.
Yeah.
Well, we found records dating back to like 7,000 BC.
Yep, in China and in various parts of the world. I mean, this stuff is old. And let's see, they have recorded records of it throughout ancient Egypt. And one of the interesting things that I thought was real crazy about the history was, I've always been curious, where did it start? They actually can't narrow down where it started. And one of the reasons for that I had found when I was looking into it is that since cereal grains that contain certain sugars can actually undergo a spontaneous type of fermentation, it becomes possible to have a beer-like drink anywhere that this can occur. So really, it wasn't dependent upon whether or not that particular society learned to make a beer drink. It was more once they learned to cultivate cereal and they started cereal grains, and then they happened to hit on one that had the type of sugar in it necessary, and then they could have accidentally fermented, and now they're beer brewers.
You threw me off of that cereal.
Cereal grains, right? I was like, man, I live off cereal.
It's like, wait a minute. Am I supposed to be putting beer in my cereal?
Can I take my Cheerios and turn them into beer?
Oats, barley.
Yeah,
Beerios?
exactly.
You get past me the Beerios?
Yeah. Let's see here. There was even let's see here. I lost my place here. Yeah. Oh man, there was even a beer god. The Sumerians believed that there was
I think that's the porcelain god you're confused.
That is definitely our modern day deity for it. If you do it wrong or right, one or the other. Let's see, and it was Nimkasi, and he was honored up to 3,900 years ago. As Glenn had mentioned, they had found China. In China, they had found pottery depicting beer brewing with barley and other grains, and that dates back to, all the way to 7,000, but a lot of it was 5,400 to 4,900 BC. It really turned industrial during the Industrial Revolution of all.
That's when it went from your localized production to industrial production, and
yep.
It blew up as a industry rather than just your local,
it's a mass scale
brew
production.
something at home.
Yeah, exactly. Another quick fact I found was that I thought was real cool was a big change in beer in general occurred around the 13th century, and that was the introduction of hops, which northern Germany ended up doing. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. So
No way the Germans had something to do
yeah,
with
the
beer.
German, they said it.
I salute you, German beers.
Yeah, they said it improved brewing process and the quality of beer, which I was wondering, if you don't like hoppy beer now and you think, wow, what did beer taste like? And that improved the taste? What would it taste like before they started putting the hops in?
Really, really sweet.
Really?
Very, actually.
Okay. Depending on where it was made, right?
Sure,
Okay.
and depending upon the process and how filtered or
Non.
right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it comes from the sugars and the alcohol. It's the yeast eats the sugar and poops out the alcohol.
Nice.
So you're saying we're drinking some sort of chemical poop?
Yes.
Yeast poop.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say I like it.
Brewers
okay
make
with it.
wort, yeast make beer.
There you go.
I thought yeast made arguments in conversation.
Nice.
Modern.
Modern.
See, here that was the smallest. Never mind. It was,
Wait, what?
it's like a fart in the wind. I
What-
think that one.
One of the things I found real interesting too is the some countries, mostly in Europe, are actually still practicing their traditional brewery methodologies, dating back to earliest records for brewing beer. Period.
Sure. Look at the Trappist monks, man. Those
That's-
guys have some fantastic beer, but they've been doing it for centuries.
Yeah. And so I'm imagining. I didn't look further into that. I'm imagining if they're still doing brews that are that old, and they probably don't have that much of a variety of them. That is the brew, and that is the one brew that they made back then. So today we have so many different varieties and types, which we'll go over a few here in a bit. But yeah, I mean,
and
that's
also look at areas that have breads. That have a history of good breads.
Mm-hmm.
There's a beer culture that follows those along because the yeast production and the cultivation it goes hand in hand.
got it.
Sweet.
So, and that brings us to a couple of quick facts I wanted to say today about today's brewing industry, which is insane. It is totally a global industry. It's claimed that from Statistica is the website I found this from, and also the Brewers Association, 51 billion gallons of beer were sold in 2017. That is what we are up to now. That's 195 billion liters for those of you that are...
That sounds like a
metric system.
lot of hangovers.
Yeah. The U.S. revenue for in 2017 for beer is $33 billion. And in 2017, there was approximately 6,372 breweries in the U.S.
How many?
6,372 in the U.S. alone.
Americans like to get fucked up.
Yes,
Wow.
we do.
Wow. And
Yes, we
you have
do.
area like in California, Northern California. One of the reasons that we have so many microbrews and small breweries coming out is because UC Davis actually has one of the top-ranked brewing schools
Yeah.
in the country. And
We
I
are
know-
pumping them out.
Pumping them out. And I know a couple of years ago there was a big thing going on. They were trying to pass a law that because a lot of people that were students that weren't 21 yet weren't able to sample the beers that they were brewing, and they were trying to pass some sort of law at UC Davis where if you were a student in the classes, even though you were under 21, you could drink beer to taste it, to learn the art of
Funny.
brewing.
Nice. I like that. That's cool. That's some
So Northern
forward thinking.
California's gotten a lot of breweries, and because of that being so close.
Yeah, and those things have literally popped up everywhere too. That was, we not too long ago we were in Portland, and man, they were. I couldn't believe it. There were so many. I thought we had a lot up here in Sacramento area, but man, they're everywhere.
Any big cultural area or where you get a lot of people together.
Yep. There's like restaurants now. I mean, and people go to them like restaurants, right? I mean, you go in
Absolutely.
there like, I want to try their food. I want to try their beer and their atmosphere and all that. Yeah,
It's big business, man.
big time.
Yep.
Glenn, what are you drinking on there?
I'm working on a Stone Delicious IPA.
A delicious IPA. There's no questioning it. That one there
It's fantastic.
is a delicious IPA. Where's that out of? Does it say?
I believe they're based out of San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah, there's also a big microbrewery scene in San Diego. Every time I'm down there, we're just touring the breweries. And
Dang.
we've been to Stone. Stone is actually a really nice brewery, really good food, and it's built in a demilitarized bunker. So it's really fancy. There's like a big fountain that rolls through the whole inside part. It's a very nice spot to sit and
I've
have
always
dinner.
wanted to get Stone is like one of my favorite beers ever, and I've always wanted to go to the brewery. Every time I've been to San Diego, I've never had the opportunity. To
Just
go.
make sure you bring money because the gift shop, you can get like 30 different types of brews canned right there. It's amazing.
Wow.
It's
Oh,
amazing.
that's cool. Wow. Very cool. So speaking of breweries, I found some facts about those guys. Since 2010, back then there was 1,813 breweries, microbreweries in the U.S., and that went up to that number I had said before. That's 6,372. We need another beer here, Thomas.
We need another beer?
chance. Yeah.
What do you guys? Well, I'll surprise you.
There you go. There you go. Just
Here,
sample.
try
Oh, that's
some
for
of this.
Yeah,
first. I
oh,
think
you're
Joe's
drinking
out.
the delicious IPA?
Yep.
Yeah. I'll try that. Yeah. Thank you.
It's delicious, I tell you.
One of the things I really liked that I found here is there are actually more than 500,000 jobs as a result of these microbreweries or breweries in general. I think. However, 135,000 of them are directly related to people working at breweries and brew pubs. That's really cool, man. I mean, considering, these are all, most of these are just small startup companies by, geeks like us or whatever who want to get into, brewing beer. Then all of a sudden your stuff takes off and now you're employing people and creating jobs off of beer.
Yeah, I mean,
that's amazing.
Track 7 here in Sacramento started out with, I think, 2 guys and, a small group of
There's
people.
2 couples. Yeah.
Yeah, two
that's
couples.
right.
Yeah.
And they've got 2 giant locations now. They probably employ 50, 60 people.
Yeah, actually, they're at
Three
now.
locations.
They have
Locations.
a restaurant now that serves their beer as
Oh,
well.
wow.
Yeah, and that's what's so cool because when I first started going there, I had a lot of respect for their business model because they paired up with the food truck industry.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
the
right.
food trucks are really taking off in Sacramento. And I've talked to people who own trucks, and they've said, well, it's a great location for it, but the city is such a pain in the ass with their ordinances and where we can park our trucks. So Track 7, the brewery, pairing up was just a genius idea.
Oh, yeah.
They literally had calendars on their website. Every day of
Yeah.
the month
Yep.
had a different food truck. Just genius.
Wow.
And for people who haven't tried Track 7 or Left Eye, Right Eye in particular, it's one of my favorite IPAs. It's a double IPA. It's at 9.5%, and it doesn't have an extreme hoppy profile. It's got like a muted profile, and it finishes clean. So even for people who aren't IPA fans, you might enjoy it.
And so the real difference between a double IPA and an IPA is they double up the hops and they double up the barley or the ingredients they use in the mash, which adds more sugar, which counteracts the
Hoppy flavor.
the IBUs.
That's why when you get to that triple IPA, you're in heaven.
Absolutely. So, and what that is just a higher sugar content, which balances out that bitter sort of.
Yeah, if you don't like hop,
the
then
hoppy
yeah,
notes.
the hoppiness. But that makes total sense. This delicious IPA, man, a citrusy IPA with lemon drop and Eldorado hops. That's
yeah.
good. I like that.
Yeah, Stone is a fantastic beer company. I've been drinking Stone for probably
That's the first time I've
15
ever had
years.
one from them. I need
Whoa.
to start expanding my palate.
You got to
on that
hang
one.
out here more at the studio. brother.
Yeah, so I brought another one that we'll try later. It's
Okay.
called the Arrogant Bastard.
Oh, okay.
that
I have
one.
had that. Yes.
So the Arrogant Bastard was actually my introduction into darker beers and
okay.
the heavier hops. And, early on in my beer drinking
Yeah.
exposure, it was all Coors Light or Budweiser or, these American
well, that's how
lagers,
most of Americans start.
which I never enjoyed.
No,
They were just
me neither.
Because they're terrible.
They're terrible.
pretty much.
They're horrible.
Also,
So-
back then, the microbrewery scene was not what it is
no.
today.
Right.
It was a matter of
And
fact. I have the
Stone was-
numbers. It was very much smaller.
Stone was one of the earlier ones that really was involved in booming the scene.
Yeah. If you guys are interested in any facts on that, Brewers Association has a website. And there's a lot of cool, very interesting stuff out there for the microbrewery and craft brewery scene. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Glenn.
You're good.
You're good? Okay. I wanted to go ahead.
So I'll throw in a fun fact.
Go ahead, do
It was the accepted practice in Babylon 4,000 years ago that a month after the wedding, the bride's father would supply his son-in-law with all the mead he could drink. For those of you who don't know, mead is a honey beer. And because their calendar was lunar-based, this period was called the honey month. It is known today as the honeymoon period.
That's great.
That's awesome.
I guess if you have a good honeymoon, it's filled with a lot of alcohol.
It should be.
I would hope
It
so.
damn should be.
And beaches.
And
Yes.
beaches.
I wanted to add these definitions real quick that Brewers Association had put out. A microbrewery is one that is considered to produce less than 465,000 gallons per year, with 75% or more being sold off-site. So you can stay microbrewery status for a good portion of your progression of your company. That's a lot of beer to be making a year. I guess it sounds like it is to me, but I don't know. I guess when you start,
Let's divide that up by 12 ounces.
yeah, right, exactly. I did not do that math, but that's actually humorous.
That's
I should
847
have done
beers.
that. A brew pub is a restaurant brewery that sells 25% or more on site, and a craft brewer is an annual production of 6 million barrels of beer. Unfortunately, I couldn't break that to gallons because I don't really know how much is in a barrel. I should have read into that. But
I actually know that information. Yeah.
What do you got?
A barrel is, I'm sorry, a keg. We call a keg. A keg is a half barrel. It's 15.5 gallons.
Okay, so 30.
So it's
31.
one? Yeah, is a barrel.
Okay, so then 6 million times 31 is a lot of beer.
That's a big number.
I'm not good with math.
Yeah, that's a big number.
Leave that to the engineers.
Let's drink a few first and try to figure
There
it out.
barrels of beer or less, which actually is 3% of U.S. annual sales. So if you keep your numbers below 3% of the annual sale of beer, you can call yourself a craft brewer.
Wow.
That's crazy. And also, as a side note to that, it is considered independent, and it has to be considered independent. And by independent, it means that less than 25% of its funding comes from a larger alcohol industry member. So if you're being backed by Anheuser-Busch, you cannot be a craft brewer. I think that's why things like that were marketed to us, or at least that's how I perceived it, like Blue Moon or something, were never called craft breweries because, or it started off that way and then Coors bought it or something like that, and they had to take away the name or something.
Right.
There's a story there. I can't remember how that went with Blue Moon, and I mean, I don't know how it is for the rest of the country, but here everybody knows about Blue Moon. I mean, that stuff is everywhere. There's advertisements.
So gross.
It is.
Yeah.
Some of the flavors aren't bad, but it's better than other Coors productions.
This is a total personal opinion. Holds no factual weight to anyone who doesn't taste things like I taste things. But Heffenweizens or wheat beers, blah.
What? I love those.
I cannot stand them. They don't have the hops, man. They don't have that good kick.
But
in the
especially
mouth.
how I started off, like you were talking about, a lot of people go through their phases of what beers they like, and inevitably there's usually a cider phase as well.
Well, ciders are different.
True, but usually it plays some part into where your beers are, and a lot of people start off with that Blue Moon and an orange.
Okay, if you're coming from the Coors or the Budweiser or the
Or not drinking beer at all.
Yeah.
Because it's a gateway. It's a gateway beer, dude.
it's a gateway beer.
It is a gateway.
That's actually how I started. That was my progression.
Get
I tried
right
that and I
in
was
there
like,
with
well,
the
this is something
Smirnoff.
totally different. I enjoy it.
Yep.
Piece of fruit. Why not? You know? And
Yeah.
it really opened the doors for me trying IPAs and things like that.
Same here, because I could not stand the Pilsners, the Coors Lights, the American lagers, those types of things. I always hated them. So I kind of wrote off beer altogether. And Blue Moon opened that gate for me. I think it was Blue Moon. And then what was what's the other one? Not the Angry Orchard, but there's another, the Shock Top, because it had the orange already in it.
yeah.
That was real quick. I got over that one real fast. But anyway, once you start down
It's
that
like
path,
Zima.
oh
man.
yeah, but Zima with a Jolly Rancher in it.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez.
I'd have to be on LSD to drink
You are
that stuff.
you are old, buddy. You are old. Nobody knows about Zima anymore.
Hey man,
And
they still sell it
shouldn't.
at
They still
Winco.
sell it.
Do they really?
Oh yeah, I was at Winco. I picked up actually some cider.
I thought you should say Zima.
Some Angry Orchard, and right next to it was Zima, and I was
You're
like,
kidding.
"Holy crap!" I think I remember my mom drinking that when I was like,
Yeah.
There weren't that many wine coolers back then. It wasn't a thing. So yeah. What do you got, Joe?
I'll throw in my next fun fact, and these come from kegworks.com. In English pubs, ale is ordered by pints and quarts. So in Old England, when customers got unruly, the bartender would yell at them to mind their own pints and quarts and settle down. It's where we get the phrase, mind your P's and Q's.
That is awesome.
I love that. It's super interesting. I don't know why, but I have this weird interest in where our
word
phrases.
Hell
Well, you want to know
yes.
another one?
Sure.
Please.
The real McCoy. You know where the real McCoy came from?
I don't.
So during Prohibition, there were several very wealthy people who owned boats who would go to Europe across the Atlantic and bring back different alcohols. And so McCoy was one of the guys who would do that, and he would only buy the most expensive alcohols, whiskeys and everything he could get. And because the way he was packing them in this weird sand, because he didn't have packing peanuts and stuff back then, he would pack them in this kind of odd sand, and you would tell from the sand, and that's how people would go, oh, is that a real McCoy?
Wow.
Nice.
Interesting.
All right. Well, if we're doing that, I'm throwing one in there too. You guys have heard of the rule of thumb? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. The rule of thumb was actually the rule that a man could. This is dark, and I guess now that I think about it, wait, I was like, why am I taking it
Go
over?
on.
Beat their wife if the
It could beat you.
stick
You could
doesn't-
beat your family with a stick that was no wider circumference than your thumb, and that was the rule
Wow.
of thumb. So next time you hear somebody say that, be like, "Dude, that's fucked up. Don't say that."
Yeah.
Huh.
Because that's wrong. But that's where it came from. So
Wow.
interesting things that stay in our society, right?
That's
that are like,
not about beer.
no. What? Well, neither was his. Come
All right,
on.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
gonna-
it was.
Yeah, it was. Real
Oh,
McCoy
yeah,
was
okay.
selling
That's-
alcohol during the Prohibition.
that hard alcohol, though, right?
Well, he sold everything he
Okay.
could get a hold of.
I'm gonna
But
go
They
ahead.
only sold the good stuff.
I'm gonna go ahead and lighten the mood. So this is one that I found that I just loved. I experience it every time I'm out and about. It seems the terminology is silicophobia, and it's the fear of an empty glass. Every time I'm out drinking with friends, I'm looking at my beer. I'm thinking, holy shit, this baby's getting close. Do I sit on it, slow it down a little bit, or do I just embrace it, kill it, and order the next? It's something I struggle with every time.
That's a tough call in a bar because it depends on
It
who you're
is.
with, or if you're meeting somebody, or you just met somebody and you got a good conversation on. You're like, do I go get another beer? Do I ruin this conversation to get another beer?
How do I look to that person? How much have I spent already? How much do I want to spend?
You just end up drinking warm beer the whole time.
There's a, kind of a stigma about having an empty glass at a beer.
There is, and that's why
Absolutely.
a lot of bartenders who are on top of things, they'll clear those bottles out in front of you pretty quick. So then before you know it, oh shit, here I am sitting at a bar with my friends,
That's what they
and there's
want.
nothing in front of me. Well, crap, I guess I better order another one.
I wonder if alcoholics suffer from this syndrome. It's got to be played part in it. Like, no, it's empty. Fill it
Part of
back
their
up.
depression.
Oh, you took it back to dark. Yeah, but clearing the bar, totally. That's
Yeah.
exact. I mean, I know they have to recycle the glasses too, keep them clean, and keep them fresh or whatever for more people, to pour more drinks. But I've always wondered about that too, because immediately when that glass is gone, you feel like, okay, what
I
the
need
hell am I
another
doing
one.
here? Like,
Yeah.
well, I
But-
need
well,
another one, but
yeah.
also like now I feel awkward for sitting
Yeah.
here and I don't have
Well,
anything. in front of me.
I always feel I always get a little bit upset when I'm at a bar and like if you're not paying attention. Sometimes if your glass is like a quarter way down and there's a guy running around picking up glasses, they'll snag that stuff.
Oh hell no.
They
No,
do it
no,
all
no,
the
no,
time.
no,
I was
no.
at Coin Op the other day.
They will not
and
take
that
my glass.
happened.
I'll be like, dude, wait, what?
Yeah, I had to jump in. The guy had
Yeah.
he
Yes.
had his hand, he had his two fingers in the glass,
Oh.
taking it away, and I was like, well, you can just have it now.
You gonna buy me a
dude.
beer now for that?
Yeah,
Because
I was
you
like,
just,
it
you
wasn't
just-
cold. I mean, sorry, it wasn't warm or anything. I was still drinking that, and he was like, "Oh, sorry."
That'd
Like,
be worth making a stink over. But at the same time, a lot of people leave glasses.
They do, and that's their job. They're just
Yeah,
trying to clean up the
right.
place. But I think it is to sell more beer too.
I think he really should have bought you another beer. Not
Yeah,
to-
he
I
should've
was
been
like, he
instinct.
really should have got you
Should've
another
been
beer for
instinct.
that one. But in
Yeah.
that location where it's usually a young crowd,
Yeah, absolutely.
People buy abandoned beers all the time. Speaking of which, will you grab me another one there?
Anyways,
It's
So-
time for a beer break.
I also wanted to make mention of this. We all have in front of us something that I've been turned on to recently from brewing beer with friends. It's a beer evaluation sheet. And if you've never attempted to evaluate beer, they break it down: appearance, aroma, flavor, just aspects of a brew that are used to judge the brew. And you can just do a Google search for beer evaluation sheet to find this. It's pretty interesting for anybody who just wants to sit down and, talk over flavor profiles with somebody that they're enjoying beer with.
So I want to add to that too. What do we? Oh my goodness, what is that?
Lambic.
Okay, work on getting that open. Let me drop this on because I wanted to add on to what
It's
Joe
not
was.
a lot of work, man.
Here, you need the opener. I think
Drunk people can open these.
Glenn's got the opener. If you guys have anywhere near you, wherever you live in the country, a Total Wine or a Bevmo, I think Bevmo does it too. These evaluation sheets that Joe was talking about here, I have used very similar things, or if not the same exact ones, to be honest, in these beer tasting classes and wine tasting classes and spirits tasting classes that these companies put on. Not to promote those companies or anything, but just to say it is actually really, really cool to go in there and take these classes because they will expose you. If you're into wine, for example, which we shouldn't be talking about that right now because it's a beer episode, but if you're, good one, Thomas. If you're into wine, they'll break down wine by geographical areas or specific grape species, and same thing with beers. They'll do like an all ale or an all German or an all whatever, however they break it down. And what's really cool though is that they will introduce you to. Oh, there's a cork in that
I
thing.
totally forgot about that.
There's so in this particular beer, there's actually a metal top that
Yeah.
you open with a can opener or a freaking
So
bottle opener.
this is a Belgian beer that I got turned on when I was, and I had to go old school. I got turned on to this when I was like probably right at 21.
This is
It's
a
kind of a
fancy-looking
weird
bottle,
little thing,
man.
and it was odd. But I thought I'd bring it to throw a little extra flavor.
How you gonna open it?
Well, I'm gonna pull out my trusty pocket knife and pick it out of there.
Oh, jeez. Open me something else before while you're working on
Let's
that.
grab something else for the time
Yeah.
being. Huh?
Hold on. I think I can. Get
So
this.
if you have
Just
any of
keep
these companies near you and you can take some of these classes, I strongly encourage it because that's what I was trying to. That's where I was going with that. They will open up enough. Well, first of all, enough beer to get you a good buzz going on. But they will a lot of times they will open up very expensive beers and very cheap beers so that you can have a chance to sample stuff that you probably wouldn't buy when you're rolling down the aisle and you're like, oh, there's that 22 ouncer and it's what is that a $30 bottle of beer? Why in the hell would I pay? Okay, that's a great question. We all answer that when we see a $20 bottle of beer sitting on the shelf. And these days, microbreweries and craft breweries and all these special brews that they're coming up with are going up in price. So when they give you the opportunity to try these, you can decide for yourself if it's worth it or if nothing else, get exposed to other companies, breweries that you didn't know about. I mean, I enjoy the heck out of those classes.
Yeah, I remember the first time I did it. It comes with a little packet of all the beers you're going to taste, a little
Yeah.
synopsis of the beer. And, I tried a lot of beers that I had never tried before and never thought of trying. But I held on to that packet. And, it was the start of summer when I took it. And it was all the summer brews that they had. And I ended up buying those beers for the rest of the summer to sample them and, try new beers. It was awesome.
Totally, and a lot of times they'll go over how to properly taste a beer and using these evaluation sheets, things to look for. Like what the big ones for me are the aroma or appearance and the finish. Those are usually the three things for me that. Obviously flavor is very important too, but everybody goes for the flavor. I mean that way you can all rate. It's the additional things. For me, aroma is a real important thing. I sniff a beer like I sniff a wine. I mean, it's just like, this is awesome. I want
or peering through the beer, much like wine, to find clarity and color and
Also the pour.
yeah.
The pour. Oh man, pouring a good head on a beer excites those aromas. That little tickle on your lip when you take that first sip really brings out the scents and the flavors.
Definitely. What am I opening here? This is a Carlsberg Copenhagen Premium Beer. Oh, all right. That's the next
well,
one.
don't hog it, pour it.
Yeah.
So one thing you touched on was the price of beer going up.
Yeah.
And here in California, that is very much the case. I travel a lot up the West Coast. I spend a lot of time in Oregon and Washington. And in those areas, beer's a lot more affordable, especially at the breweries. I don't have any prices on hand, but
Yeah. It's just cheap.
Ooh,
We're
that
not getting
is tasty.
We're not
But,
getting up
So,
enough.
so I wanted to bring this Carlsberg in here. Another one of those kind of goes back to like another part of my life. So when I was about 19, 20, 21-ish, I hung out with these two guys, Graham and John, who are from Ireland, and they would only drink Carlsberg.
I
And
can
we
see
used
why.
to get trashed
I can
as
see why.
teenagers on Carlsberg.
So this is a 5%. This is a very light feeling, but this is a summer beer.
It's kind of got like
Definitely.
a skunky smell a little
Yeah.
bit, which
Yeah.
I appreciate.
Like-
But this tastes like I wish every Heineken would taste.
Yes.
Because Heineken
Exactly.
is awful.
Yes.
Let's say that one more time.
Heineken is awful.
Thank
Although
you.
it
I
is
just spent,
better from
I just
the
spent
tap.
3 weeks in Netherlands, and let me tell you
Oh.
something, Heineken is terrible.
It is.
Oh, it's big over there, huh?
It's where that comes from.
That's where it comes from. Okay, I don't know much about Heineken.
That
to be
is good.
honest.
That's a good beer.
Yeah, this is good. I like
is
this.
Heineken like a Pabst?
Exactly.
Ooh.
Oh, that's
It's like a Budweiser
All right.
kind of
see, and depending on where you live and where you're listening, Pabst Blue Ribbon is like a hipster
Everybody knows
orgy
Pabst.
for freaking those people right now. I mean,
So
they're-
gross.
It's so popular out here. It's ridiculous. You see that on tap as much as
PB
you
Army
see.
ASAP.
Yeah, you see that on tap as much as you see Coors Light or some other overly marketed beer.
I feel like for a beer drinker, it's really only acceptable if you're shit faced floating down the river.
You're trying to-
any
yeah.
other time because solely for the purpose that if you drop that thing, it's just a Pabst. So what?
That's a good point. And you know what's funny is most of the people I know that drink PBR are very fat.
Oh,
Oh,
well, you got to drink
couldn't
so
say
many
that.
of them to get drunk.
Oh, that's the thing, and that's a thing with a lot of like bad beers. And I always hear the argument about people, oh, craft beers are expensive. This that. Well, I don't want to drink 15 beers.
No,
I
me
want to
neither.
drink 2 good ones.
Right. Yeah.
Quality over
Yeah.
quantity.
Right.
In fact-
every time, in every walk of
Every
life.
time, everything.
Yeah, exactly. I have to
But yeah,
agree
the
with you on that.
Carlsberg was like, and this brings back a lot of memories to me. It brings back a memory of a buddy of mine. We drove 45 minutes to go hang out at my buddy John's place, who we drank all the Carlsberg with, and my buddy's all excited. Johnny's all excited. I'm gonna get to the pool, and he is a very accident-prone person. Takes a drink of Carlsberg, woo, jumps into the pool, dives in. As he dives in, he scratches the entire top of his foot on the bottom of the pool and bleeds all over the place. And his entire weekend he was limping around while we were drinking, laughing.
Oh, brutal.
So this is to John.
Nice.
Cheers.
There you go.
Salud.
Cheers. All right, I wanted to talk a little bit more about this the atmosphere within microbreweries or within these brew pubs, because I think I've been surprised with it. I mean, we go in there, and I wanted to say this for any of you out there who have not gotten out and checked out any of the microbreweries that you have in your area, maybe because you think it's like a bar and there's a whole bunch of alcoholics sitting around. Or maybe you've taken a brew tour of like some huge brewery, like a Budweiser or something. You were just kind of disgusted with what you saw. Yeah, nothing like that at all. These things are actually, most of the time, they're very family orientated. They are super fun. Nice. They are super fun and playful environments. I mean, they're just like, people are just playing games. There's board games. There's card games. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, people go in groups. I mean, I can't think of a single time I've been in a brewery where I saw somebody who's by themselves. I mean, it's usually at least 3 or more. I mean, I've gone 2 or more or whatever, but I mean, it's like it's a totally different feel from a bar. And further to that point, most of these places close at the latest 11, 10 at the latest. They don't want drunks around there. They don't want stupid stuff. They don't want bad things happening. So they kick people out. Go out there, have a couple beers, have your taste, enjoy yourselves, enjoy your company.
Well, it breeds an environment of relaxation and enjoyment, rather than you don't have the person there at 6 a.m. that's drinking their life away.
Yep.
You got people that are going there to have a social environment and
unwind and have
exactly.
some community. Yeah, spirits. What isn't it the word spirits? Right.
Well, those are hard alcohols.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then also because they're usually in a warehouse setting, and there's usually not food there. Sometimes there is food trucks, but they're dog friendly. So for all you dog lovers,
Yep.
That very much depends on the region, though. As far as the location, like a Lagunitas Brewery up in Petaluma.
Oh, Lagunitas, yes.
Very dog friendly, but they have some fantastic in-house food. One of my favorite meals they serve there. Awesome.
Got it.
Hang out. You got your dog hanging out right by your foot.
You know what's like that too is Sierra Nevada. If you're ever in the Chico area, guys, that is one of their best restaurants. I love that place. Been there many times.
Sierra Nevada is awesome. That was
Sierra
my
Nevada,
first.
yeah.
That was me turning on to heavier beers and local micro.
Big
they're
time.
they're an awesome, and the guy was a Chico State dropout.
Yep. Yeah, they're an amazing company. If you don't know anything about that one, or if you're in California, then you haven't been up there, make it up there. And
if you're going to Chico State and you want a summer job, they pay you in beer.
and it's worth it.
They actually do. I've had friends that used to go to school in Chico, and they would pay them. They'd go and work, and they'd be like, "Oh, here's your 24-pack."
I would totally believe that, because when you take their brewery tour, I mean, I'm very good and buzzed by the time I'm done with that brewery tour. It's amazing. I'm like, wow, you just thanks for free.
Right. Chico's an amazing place. One of the best cities in California.
It really is.
Sure.
And then I want to say, just recently, I think within the last few years, that brewery became 100% reliant on renewable energy.
Yes.
They also
Amazing.
grow their own hops there.
They do.
Nice.
As a matter of fact, I'm holding in my hand a Sierra Nevada bottle opener right here.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Fanboy.
Yeah.
Well,
Big time.
I've always liked Sierra Nevada for a long time, and I have in my hand as well the new hazy little thing IPA,
yeah.
and it is delicious. The hazy IPA is doing a lot right now in the area. Everybody's brewing a hazy, it seems, but this one is delicious. Nice. I really enjoy it. We'll open that one next.
Speaking of good beers, are we ready for a beer break?
We are.
I think so.
Right now, it's
another beer that I brought, Ben's got in his hand. Why don't you tell us what that is?
This is a lambic Belgian raspberry beer, malt beverage with natural flavors and natural sweet. I like it. Let me see this. I'm going to try this one.
So this is another beer from my past. I've had a lot of drinking in my past.
That's classier than I'd expect from you.
Yeah. Oh, you cut him so deep.
That thing was $6.
Yeah.
Whoa! I've never
got
tried
like
a
a
lambic
purplish color to it.
I've
never tried
a cork in it.
You have a cork in it.
I know. I should put a cork in it. This is one of those crazy. This is one of those crazy beers that a buddy of mine, the John guy I was talking about earlier, who scraped his foot in the pool. He was a massive alcoholic. This was one of his favorite beers.
Nice, good way to sell the beer.
It's a good way to find out about good beers. Is find friends who are alcoholics.
That's true.
They're usually pretty good with the beer choices.
So I like to
I
find
haven't had
beers
this
with
in
cool
a very long
bottles.
time.
Oh, yeah. Seriously, bottles
another
are.
bonus
That's
too,
what I
yeah.
like about Delirium. Delirium has that crazy
Delirium
cool,
tremens.
like clay. All the Deliriums. There's like 4 of them now. And they all have those really crazy, cool clay-looking bottles or whatever, and they're amazing beers. They're just stupid
And this
expensive.
beer smells.
Yeah,
really
like what
good.
the heck, dude?
It's almost
This
like
is
a wine.
I'm really all about
really
drinking
does.
beers
Fruity.
out of glass bottles too, personally.
Absolutely.
Not
Oh,
just
yeah.
because I love glass, but I will say, and just one of the things that's most interesting about glass to me is that it's one of the few materials that human beings have created that's 100% recyclable.
Yeah.
Now, aluminum is
Let's talk
also
about these
along
cans.
those same lines. Aluminum is 100% recyclable as well. But what a lot of people don't understand is that once the can is formed, there's actually a coating that is sprayed within the aluminum can to separate the liquid in the can from the aluminum so that the liquid doesn't take on the taste of aluminum. Now, what people don't realize is that coating is a BPA product. So it's touching the liquid that you're drinking.
It's poison.
Yeah.
It is poison. Now, some beverages are more corrosive than others, so they require a heavier coating of BPA, like sodas, for instance. And a beer actually doesn't necessarily need it, but if it's going from hot to cold, then it would, and that's why they do it.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of people who are really into the craft brew scene, and they're super hip individuals, and I've had this debate that, cans are better than beers, but they don't understand they're coated with that. You know,
It's totally changing the flavor.
I had an experience working at a warehouse. We got a shipment of Guinness Draft that had been left out in, like, the truck got parked on the side of the highway for a couple days out in the desert. So it got extremely hot inside the truck, and that
yeah.
inner lining actually melted.
Yes, it will.
And the beer ate its way through the aluminum can.
What?
So half of the batch dissolved through the cans. I had the task of sifting through these.
No.
I had no idea that could happen.
Oh yeah,
See, I
So-
thought those coatings were just like a paraffin wax, but that's
Nope.
Wow,
it's a
it's a bad thing. Isn't
It's
that
toxic,
amazing?
man. Yeah,
Wow.
that's what I was. This is when I saw this when I was walking through picking up beers to sample, and I saw this lambic. I was like, I have to grab this.
So is this flavor
This is really
like
good.
traditional of lambics? I've never had a
No.
lambic.
Yeah,
It's cranberry flavored though.
yeah,
right?
it's a raspberry beer, and they have several other flavors too. They're all. This is my favorite one, the raspberry one.
That is amazing.
And I don't know what the alcohol content.
yeah,
is.
that's what's going to be my next
It
question.
doesn't have it on there anywhere, but you notice on here it has it's either Japanese
Is that
or
like
Chinese.
some sort of Asian writing on the bottle? I was like, whoa, man.
This is
is
what I
this?
wish
Looks like a sake bottle.
every sour would taste like.
Oh,
Apparently
yeah.
I'm not a sour
yeah,
fan.
these are
Never
really
The
good.
lambics are
But they are
good.
expensive.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was like $6 or something. For
Yeah,
that.
that's not that bad, man. These days
Maybe,
I've been
wait a
I've
minute,
been
maybe
getting
it was three. Maybe it was three.
I've been getting
I
some
can't
fancier
remember.
stuff these days, so I can live with a $6 bottle of beer.
that's not just an LB.
It does
You know
have a
what?
little
I
bit of
can't-
tartness to it too.
Yeah,
which I
it's-
really
You know what?
like.
It is.
Excellent.
You're totally right, Glenn. That is the letters LB. It just looks like an Asian
Look at Glenn.
lettering.
All right, man.
Nice.
You're the only one that
But
figured
yeah,
it out.
the,
Show
the
off.
lambic
Drink
is,
some
is
more.
a good one. Yeah.
I'm not drunk enough.
Yeah, and this is the Belgian raspberry beer. Belgian beers.
Wow.
I've always been a fan
Yeah.
of Belgian
Oh
beers
yeah.
in
definitely.
general.
Oh yeah.
And this is just such a flavorful beer. I mean, it's not. I mean, and I've gotten really drunk off these before, and it's kind of like a wine drunk.
Nice. No, the thing smells like wine, dude. I like it.
smells
This
fantastic.
is amazing. I'm gonna have to remember this one.
Yeah, but I agree. This tastes like what this tastes like what a sour should taste like.
Yes. Yes. Instead of like vomit in
Right.
the back of your mouth.
Sours are they're a weird beast.
They taste like
some
hydrochloric
people
acid
love
to me.
them, some people swear by them. And I was over at a beer garden with a friend one night, and we just started a conversation with this random dude sitting next to us, and he turned out to be a bartender nearby. And he's like, we had this conversation, and he looked at us and said, "All right, well, I got you guys." He's like, "I'll buy 2 sours that I guarantee you will like, and you can try them. You can have them if you like them." So he went and bought them. Unfortunately, I can't recall either of the names now, but they were delicious.
They must have been.
And, yeah, they were actually really good. So maybe it's just that I'm drinking the wrong kind. You know.
That's
on the
very
sours.
possible.
Yeah, I think the sours are one of those. It's like, for me, I'm not a big fan of them, and so I've drank a couple that I like, but it's.
I've only tried 2, so I'm definitely
do
open
you
to
remember
trying.
which ones you tried?
Yeah, one was a Track 7, and if I didn't,
Okay.
that's what I figured. The last one I tried was a Track 7, and I thought, dude, if I don't like it, because Track 7 is known for making the like I said, very user-friendly brew
Absolutely,
types.
yeah.
And I'm like, man, if I don't like the Track 7, crap, maybe I wouldn't like this at all, because that's what those guys market off of, you know?
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, but who's to say they know anything about sours?
True.
That's true.
So I will definitely try more, but of the 2, I can't remember what the other one was, but of the 2 I've tried, those I didn't like that.
Well, but I think another thing when we're talking about visiting breweries and doing like brew tours, just like Track 7, one of the things that's really nice about visiting those places is they're very friendly. It's a really great atmosphere, and generally they'll have everything that they make on tap, and you can
Yes.
get
And then
smaller
some.
samples and then some,
Yes.
and seasonals and everything else. So you can
Yes.
get like at Track 7, you get like a smaller glass. It's like $3.
Yep.
For a sample or something. It's not a sample. It's like a 8-ounce glass
Yeah.
or something like that. But it's kind of nice to be able to look at a list and when you're at a liquor store and you're like, well, I kind of like that brand, but I don't really know what these are. You go there and you can try for like $20. You can try 8 or 9 different.
Oh, you're talking about
beers.
getting the flight of
Yeah.
sampler flights? Yeah, you can do that. And also, you can just ask for samples. Like,
Yeah,
hey, can I try
exactly.
that?
That's the
Can I
other
try
point.
that? It's like not like a normal bar. Well, sometimes bars will let you do that
I
too,
wouldn't
but-
be afraid to ask for a sample in a bar. I'm
I
not
do it
afraid
everywhere.
to-
Joe and
yeah.
I have done that before.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
we were at
I do it
UFB
everywhere.
one time, and I think we were doing samples.
Yeah, and it's exactly. If University Beer doesn't do it, like, dude, you got a
Right.
problem. And the other thing too is I kind of judge a bar off of that too. If you
Yeah,
won't give me, I'm going to buy something. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend money. If you won't give me a sample of beer to let me pick what I want to buy,
Yeah, you're all bragging about how you have 800 beers.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what to buy, so let me try a couple of things real quick.
Yeah, a lot of times I've become accustomed to shooting the shit with the bartender, and
Hell
I'll just
yeah.
ask for a sample. I'll be like, hey, what's your favorite thing you're pouring right now?
And a lot of bartenders will say, "Hey, you want to try it?"
I have never had one say, sorry, we don't do samples.
Right.
I've just been
Yeah.
given something I'd never tried before, and 9 times out of 10, I order it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for an education in that.
And don't be afraid if you're at a bar to ask for things like that too. I
Never,
think some people
dude.
have a little stigma. Of
I've
like,
even returned drinks. Like take.
I
one-
have too.
Yes.
I bought stuff and I go, man, this I cannot even drink this. And usually they're like, oh, okay, well, what would you like?
I mean, it's not going to mean.
They want to
anything-
keep you as a customer.
Yeah, it's not going to mean anything to the listeners, but it's Shady Lady. I have ordered one of their signature drinks, which is a white linen. Oh, sorry, white women.
You ordered white women.
that too.
I've ordered those before
Nice.
too, mainly in Vegas.
White.
Damn,
Well
that's
played,
good.
sir.
That,
That
lambic
is
good.
amazing. I ordered a white linen, which is a gin-based drink, and it's one of their signature drinks, very popular. I didn't really care for it because I'm still learning gin, and I'm not really that big into it. I took one sip of it, decided I didn't like it at all, and the bartender was actually watching me because he was bored or whatever, watching me drink it because I told him I never had one.
He was amused.
And I was like,
Yeah, it's kind of a chick drink.
Dude, I do not like that at all. And he's like, dude, don't even worry about it. Just they throw out drinks all the time. He wasn't tripping. He didn't charge me for it. Sold me, and I told him, give me one of my other staple ones that I liked, and yeah, we were good. But yeah, you can actually return a drink. If you're not being, an asshole. I mean,
Yeah,
if they don't
right.
like you, they're not going to
Never be an asshole.
Never be mean to a That's the worst thing you can do is be mean to a bartender, dude. I mean, even if they're having a bad night or even if they're packed, I mean, never be mean. Never bite the hand that feeds.
Yeah, there's just some basic rules in life, and that's
Yeah,
one of
you-
those.
you
Don't fuck with people who
Yeah.
handle your food
Yep.
or your drinks.
That's right. That's it.
Some people don't learn that, and they don't practice that. And I just look at that and I think you are such an
That's bad
idiot
bar etiquette.
to be an asshole to this person who's preparing your food. That's you couldn't be more stupid right now.
Yeah, these people are literally handling something that's going to go into your body.
Yep.
Do you really want to screw with them? I mean, really?
Yeah, so shout out to all the people who have worked in the food and bar industry. We hear you,
cheers.
we love you, and
Cheers to
we
you
respect
guys.
all of you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Right there. All right, I want to talk a little bit about a concept that has been fascinating me lately, and I'll allude to why that is in a moment. There is very much, I feel, growing a... we need another one, Thomas, whatever you got, or more of that.
Let me stick my hand in the magic pouch.
Yes,
Grab
yes,
that hazy.
Please do, Felix.
The hazy?
Hazy.
Oh, I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah.
There is very much a beer culture in the sense of, I don't want to say a snobby or picky nature, but in a connoisseur sense.
I'm a beer snob.
Okay, that's fine. That's what's going to come to, right? And I want to break this down because most people, I think, in this country are more familiar with wines because they go back a little further from the microbrewery. And I mean, you take a look at wines, and you've got your whites and your reds, you've got your Rieslings, your Pinot Gris, your Sauvignon Blanc, your Chardonnay. You go to reds, you've got your Pinot Noir, you've got your Zinfandel, the Syrah, the Cabernet Sauvignon.
All right, quit
all
showing
of
off.
these, all of these ones that most people
Easy,
are
Pinot.
yeah. Pinot, P.S. That people are familiar with. And if you come from the wine background or you have gone down that path or you know somebody who's very into it, it is very much the same with beers. We've got, except they break it down a little bit differently. They break it down into types: ales, lagers, stouts, porters, malts.
Beer break.
And yeah.
Sounds refreshing.
What are we doing now?
So this is Joe brought this one.
Oh,
The Sierra Nevada. This is the Hazy Little Thing IPA.
Hazy little IPA.
Hazy Little IPA.
Hazy Little
Sorry.
IPA.
And I've been actually excited to try this one because I'm
Very
a big Sierra.
drinkable. Yeah, for people who shy away from Sierra Nevada because they're crazy hop heavy, I will admit that they are very hop heavy. but this has just got a smooth finish, and it
Except
doesn't
when you
have
just
that.
dump it like I did.
Yeah, you got to
it's
tilt
too much
that
head on that,
glass.
buddy.
I know. I wasn't prepared for
That's
it.
bad head.
Yeah, all head there, man.
Definitely want
Everybody
to tilt
likes
the
a little
glass when you're pouring heavy beers. For those of you who don't know,
There you go.
like Thomas.
Well, I generally know. I was kind of
Okay,
I
so
think
go.
the sampling of 7 or 8 beers we've had so far is starting to catch up.
Oh no, we're good. We're good.
Don't blame the booze.
Yeah,
man.
dude, don't blame the booze. don't blame the beers. So I named some types, styles. We've got all kinds of styles of beer: amber, blonde, brown, cream, dark, fruit, honey, golden, Indian pale ale, light, pilsner, pale, red, wheat. I mean, there's all kinds
not
of
bad.
variations of beers. And the reason I bring this up is because going along, judging by from our history where we came from, and what's happening now in our country with the legalization of marijuana, I wanted to speak a little bit on that because I think damn Thomas,
Sexy.
dude. Yeah, that's hot, dude. Thanks.
Sexy
Beer
kinda.
episode.
I feel like a lot of people aren't aware of what is definitely coming and what is already here. It's just widening its horizons, like the beer culture was not too long ago. As marijuana becomes recreational legal everywhere, eventually it will become federally legal. And now until that time, the spread of the weed culture is expanding just the same as the beer culture did. In weed, we have essentially 3 variations. You have your sativas, you have your hybrids, and your indicas. And within your sativas, you got the very popular Sour Diesel, Maui Wowie, Super Sour Diesel.
Wowie.
Your hybrids, Blue Dream, OG Kush, Pineapple Express. And your indicas, Purple Kush, Northern Lights, and Granddaddy Perps.
Perps.
Yeah. And it sounds funny to talk about that stuff because of the...
I wasn't laughing.
Maybe if you're not in the know.
If you're not in the know. And that's the whole reason I wanted to bring this
Yeah.
up, because a lot of people that I talk to who are not in the know, people I work with or whatever, I like to expose people to this because they are not aware that just like you're a taste connoisseur of beer or wine, you can be exactly the same with the many, many, many hundreds and hundreds of strains of weed.
Most
And
definitely.
You can be a taste connoisseur for weed.
I definitely am.
Yeah, I mean,
Joe and I are
Absolutely.
definitely. We're definitely.
we all know about it, but I just, in case people haven't, didn't know that it was coming. I mean, it's
coming.
it is very,
ready.
it is very, very much like it, and you will get, and we already know. I mean, I know people who are total weed snobs. Yeah, I mean, you're very, very picky about what you. And again, you have to remember when you start opening, and I don't mean everybody out there, but if you have been closed-minded to marijuana your whole life, and when it becomes legal and the government says you can have it now, and you decide to start playing with it, know that it is just like when you had your first beer. When grandpa or your uncle gave you a sip of that Budweiser from the red can thing and it tasted like shit, or you just couldn't tell the difference between one or the other, or you finally found one that you liked and you kept going with it. It's just like your path of beer experience and learnedness evolved. So will your taste for weed.
And also, different strains can bring forth different mindsets,
Yes.
which is important to note as
Yes.
well.
Yeah, they have a different a body.
Go
if
over
you
that.
would.
Go over that. So it's
Like
sativas
mental-
versus hybrids versus
So,
indicas.
so your the 2 base strains that most things come from. Also, some are also crossed with hemp in hybrids for production and whatnot.
Yep.
But your 2 base psychoactive strains are your indica and your sativa. Indica tends to have a more heady high. It's mental. It's tends to be
You
more
kinda- you-
creative.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's a higher sensation. You feel lifted. Your thoughts are going a little bit faster. Colors are a little bit more vibrant.
I'm sorry. I was drinking that and thinking about this beer, reading the can for this one. You were talking about indicas?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, and it's and
No,
medically.
no, sativas.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You,
sativas.
you
Oh, yeah.
said indica, you meant sativa.
Yeah,
I did.
You
I
did.
screwed
I was
that
like,
up.
wait a minute, that doesn't
Indica's
sound right for
more the
indicas.
relaxing-
Have another
Right.
drink, Glenn.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The indica is the more body high.
Melt into the
I only
couch.
smoke sativas.
If you need to go to sleep,
I'm a sativa smoker also.
Smoke
a lot
indica.
a lot of times indicas are prescribed back when medical marijuana was the way.
it's still the way. It's still a thing.
For bulimic people, people with eating disorders, people who cannot sleep.
Yeah, it's because it induces more of that stereotypical sit around, relax,
sedative.
eat.
Yeah, that's your stoner weed.
Yeah, right.
Straight up, like I'm just gonna
Yeah,
play
that's
video
an
games and
indica.
pass out. Yeah.
Right. But I've had some awesome perps where I was laying in bed to pass out and had closed my eyes and I see just images, like an image reel flowing through my mind's eye until I was able to pass out.
Yeah.
So colorful sort of.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't mean to derail this entirely. I just wanted to make the point that because we are going to do a similar episode. Well, we're going to try to do a similar episode in the future on the connoisseurism of marijuana. But I just wanted to put that out that to me, in my mind, in the way I've been perceiving, the course of my life and watching these industries, this weed industry seems like it's going in exactly the same direction as the wine started off, hundreds of years ago, and the beer has been going in the last, 10, 20 couple decades.
It's a beautiful plant. It's a huge disservice to humankind that
Big
it's
time.
been stigmatized and made illegal. It's just shameful.
One thing to kind of tie the cannabis conversation back to our beer conversation, cannabis is related to hops.
They're in the same family.
They're in the same family of plant.
I did not know that.
If you smell a raw hop, it smells like pot.
Yeah, it's got that leafy,
You're right, it does.
effervescence.
Skunky.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do.
my coworker brews a lot of beer, and another coworker grows hops, and she just brought a bag of hops into them, and they look like nugs. They're bright, light green, nug-shaped flower buds.
But so Ben, do you see? I mean, because I see a little bit of that more crossover between beer, because you already see a little bit of hemp beers here and there and stuff like that. Do you
I've
think
had
that-
some hemp
little
beers.
bit,
They're
yeah.
good.
Have you? I haven't had any
I
yet.
have. I have.
I didn't know if that was something that I see that as being a future thing where. it
Oh,
starts to
was that
boil
your
a little-
question?
That yeah, that
I'm
was my
sorry.
question.
I've tried hemp beers. I can't remember. There was actually one that actually had a bud leaf on it. I was like, oh,
Nice.
okay, I got to try that. That's
Hemp ale, too.
Yeah, okay. The thing I think is going to be really interesting is when we actually start combining THC into alcoholic beverages, which can be real dangerous. But at the same time, if people are educated and they know what they're getting themselves into, and they don't drink it like a normal, like a
Right.
Pilsner or an American lager.
Quantity over quality.
That's right. You have to know what you're getting into. It's just it's kind of like the same thing as once you get into hard alcohol and you start sipping whiskey or you start
Right.
sipping cognacs or whatever you're into. You don't drink it like a beer. You sip
Yeah.
it. And
You sip it,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you enjoy it through the process if you enjoy it, and you start drinking that too fast and you're in trouble. So there will eventually be concoctions, I think, that involve. However, I don't see any of that stuff coming until it is federally legal.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think.
with you on that
Yeah, there's going to be a.
Legally.
What did I say?
I mean, they won't be.
Oh, legally. Oh,
available
yes.
legally.
Yeah, and been available to the masses because
Yeah.
I think we'll start getting real creative with it when we, when it becomes everybody can mess with it, right? Like
I see more like a
microbreweries.
hemp microbrew.
Yeah, exactly.
There's going to be a microbrew company that comes out that's just all about hemp.
Yeah, another kind of playing off of what I can't remember who was saying it now. One of you guys is beer's kicking in here. Think about what happened, what you read anyway, because none of us were alive, obviously, after Prohibition. It was like, man, you took this stuff away from the people, and life was not good. People were not happy. And it's kind of like we've just had a longer prohibition on marijuana, and I think it's going to have a similar effect on all the benefits that have. Damn, I don't even know if I should say that. All the benefits that have come to society since we've had prohibition removed.
Well, prohibition is bad for a number of reasons. I mean, it's human nature to want what you can't have.
That's true.
And history shows us with alcohol prohibition that as soon as that was put into place, well, it created organized crime.
Yeah.
It funded
It's-
a lot
which
of
is what-
organized crime. Yeah.
Mar-
It's
be- marijuana
exactly
being
the
legal is done
same
too.
with what's going on here.
Yeah.
Weed legalization in California has cut a lot of money out of growers' pockets, and you can see it through the industry. And now there's control over it. More strains are getting tested. It's getting safer for the people. But that's never been the number one concern. That's not why it's illegal.
It was never unsafe for the people.
Yeah,
Right.
Ever.
Well, it was
Demonized.
propaganda, man.
Yeah.
Propaganda.
Yeah. And in
Watch
fact,
out for those black people and those brown people that smoke weed because they will rape you, young white women.
That's it.
literally what it was.
Right.
It's a crock of shit.
Reefer madness.
It's a huge disservice to humankind. It's a shame. I find it shameful.
Yeah. I was amazed at the prohibition thing. And when you talk about prohibition, one of the things you have to remember about prohibition was there were a lot of people in our government that were really pushing prohibition, but the reason that prohibition, it actually took about 10 years for it to happen, to pass through our government. Part of the reason was because they were trying to figure out a way of subsidizing the income that they had off of alcohol sales. And because of prohibition, guess what we got? Income tax.
Interesting.
What?
Oh
There
yeah,
was no income tax
that's
until
true.
Prohibition.
That got implemented that back then.
Yeah, that was a way of replacing the income that the government was taking off
See,
of
and this
beer
is what
sales,
blew me away
beer and
with the
alcohol.
whole illegalization of marijuana. If they taxed marijuana, there is billions of dollars there, especially a nationwide tax.
Well, I mean, you look at what happened in California. Look how expensive it is now. I mean, you go to a dispensary now, and you're paying, 40% taxes on weed?
Easily.
Yeah, it's insane.
And I know in Colorado, they are raking in money.
Oh, absolutely.
They have been raking in money. And I can't believe that the rest of the country isn't like, hey, stop taxing us. How about you reduce some of our taxes and just tax the hell out of marijuana or beer or anything?
Yeah, it's
like
a
that.
luxury tax. And that's what they're trying to say. It's a luxury tax. Well, you don't have to have this. This
And
is
you know
a
what?
luxury to your
Kind of like we
life.
were talking about with that consumption tax, the VAT. Remember when
Oh,
we
yeah,
mentioned
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Kind of like the VAT. You don't pay that tax if you don't buy it.
Absolutely.
But a lot of other people will buy it and will pay the tax for you. So imagine if they eliminated sales tax and just introduced a 30% tax on marijuana, and now all of a sudden you get to go buy everything you want to buy in your life, in your state, with no sales tax, and all the people who smoke weed, if you don't choose to, are actually covering the same amount for you. Maybe it would work out. I don't know. It's just an idea to throw out there. It's not, the numbers might not balance out, but nevertheless, imagine that.
Silly
And
sales tax
yeah,
states.
and why in the hell are you not jumping up and down to do this? It blows me away.
I think it's because we live in a Christian nation.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's.
I
think
think
that's
I just
part
want to
of it.
remind you guys that beer is good.
Yes,
and
beer.
stuff.
As a matter of fact, can you open another one here?
Is it time for a beer break?
Yes, it is. Another,
Beer break.
We need another.
I'm still swigging the last of my haze.
Oh,
That
I'm-
haze is
this
really
is
good.
very
It's
good,
good,
actually.
right?
There's
I think it's one of my favorite Sierra Nevadas I've had
It's
now.
one of my
that I've
new
tried
very
that for sure.
smooth.
Yeah,
I
and
hope-
then-
I'm gonna stick my hand in the mystery bag of beer.
There
There we
is.
go.
We'll
And
see
we,
what we
we were
get.
just in Chico last weekend, and a couple of the bartenders told us that it's their number one selling Sierra Nevada now. It's just rocketed to the top, and they sell them in 6-packs now, pretty popular. So keep your
That's
eye
another
out for
Sierra
it.
Nevada.
Give it a try.
I brought that one. Yeah, and Sierra Nevada should be available to pretty much almost everybody in the country.
Pretty sure that's
there's
countrywide, yeah.
there's a huge brewery out somewhere towards the East Coast. I can't remember what state it's in now, but
So
I mean,
did
it's
you bring
massive.
this one, Ben?
I did bring that
Why don't
one.
you introduce this one
Okay,
to
there
us?
you go. So one of my real user-friendly, non-super hoppy, it's a Bavarian-style wheat from Sierra Nevada, is the Kellerweiss. And not to keep promoting Sierra Nevada, but they really do
They
have
make some good beers.
They do, and they have a huge selection. That's the other thing is, I mean, these guys have been doing it for so long. You go to their brewery, and it's like they have a line of taps, and they're like, no, there's no duplicates there.
Sorry.
Excellent. There's no duplicates there. They really have that many brews. And then, well, hold on one second here. There we go.
That's such a beautiful sound.
It is. And one of the things, too, is if you take one of their tours, they actually have a lot of special projects. And so we've run into this a couple of times from microbreweries. The really cool ones, they'll be doing collaborations with other entities, and they'll be doing, or they'll do experimental brews. And sometimes they'll actually hook you up with, you can try a sample of their what they're working on. And I love it when they do that because that
yeah.
stuff's like, sometimes it's, sometimes it's not that great. Sometimes it's like, wow, like, okay, so when are you going to make this, real? And like, oh,
Right.
nope, we're not ready yet for
We're
that,
just
right?
testing this.
Another thing that that fascinates the heck out of me, Sierra Nevada distributes for a local monastery's brew. So they actually brew. Oh yeah, Glenn, this isn't up your alley. this is a
What was
summer.
this one again?
This is a summer mowing the lawn beer. It's too light.
It's a wheat
Mowing the
beer.
lawn.
Yeah, it's a
beer.
wheat. Yeah, definitely, man. It's light. It's refreshing. It's not up Glenn's alley.
So my facial expression
saw it,
is
yeah.
just totally like.
I'm gonna say I'm with Glenn on this one.
Oh, well, damn. All right. Well, see, I brought a bad one.
Well, no, it's good for
wouldn't say it's
you.
bad,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just different flavors for different people. You got to try a bunch to know what you like.
You really
right?
do. You really do.
So, kind of getting on that trial thing, if you guys have ever had the gumption to try to brew, seriously recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It's time consuming.
Pass it over
Sorry,
to
gotta,
Ben.
Pat, we're
gotta,
passing
had to
a beer
pass
there.
it. Yeah, it can be a little time consuming. Not necessarily in the actual production of the wort, but it takes time to ferment. And but playing around with ingredients and quantities of said ingredients in your different batches, it's fun to see if you can come up with a flavor that's nice.
Yeah.
A lot of the first beer you make probably is going to taste like crap.
Yeah.
But, it could be a total gem. And the more you measure your ingredients and the better you can track your temperatures and amounts
Yeah.
and whatnot, the more predictable your recipe comes out.
I think we've all had these friends that brew the beers and like, come over, I just brewed the beer, and you take a drink up and you're like, oh, this is great. What?
Yeah, let me add to that. If all else fails, you can take that refrigerator that you were using for brewing beer and turn it into a kegerator.
Hells yes.
You got a good excuse for a keg. You got half the kegerator
Dude.
system right there in the fridge.
Having a kegerator is freaking awesome.
Yeah, we actually do have one here at the shop, and on occasion we'll fill up, with a little half keg or whatever, and it lasts us forever. We got a nice tap that Thomas built into the countertop. It is awesome. It's actually a twin tap, but we don't have two fridges. But yeah, nevertheless. And then I bought us. That was what I was going to say. I bought us a Track 7 tap. Right, that's what we have on the handle.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
that monastery. Sometimes some of them, but Sierra Nevada in particular, will work with a monastery that's up north for a little past them called Ovilla. And that was actually the brew I wanted to bring today, but I had a busy
Ovilla?
Ovilla, Ovila, and it's there's a number of seasonal brews that they come out with. There's one that they maintain throughout the year, and it's distributed and brewed by Sierra Nevada. It's amazing. They make a couple of saisons, which I love. I love saisons.
Wow.
Saisons, however you say it. But yeah, so that's one I look for every year.
Nice, I dig it.
We are Joe. Do you have another fact for us before we cut out here? We're running out of time here.
Think I'm about dry for the
that's
good
it?
ones.
About dry on the facts.
Yeah.
I think
About
the
dry
fact
in
is
the mouth here.
the fact is we've tried a lot of beer tonight.
That's it.
And, so I say we'll just go around the table. We've tried a lot of beers. We've maybe done some things that other people we haven't tried before. So I say let's go around. Does anybody have a favorite new thing that they tried today?
Oh, wait, I lied. I will say the moon has a crater named beer.
Why?
The moon has a crater.
Oh, it really
named
does.
beer.
Oh man, see that
Yeah,
blew,
there's
that
the
blew
fact.
right over me.
There we go. There's the fact.
There it is. A moon crater. I like
crater.
it.
That lambic was
That
pretty good.
lambic.
That was
lambic.
tasty.
That's my
Yeah,
pick
I like
for the
both
evening.
that you put out. The lambic and the
Carlsberg.
Carlsberg is
Yeah.
really good. Like I said, it's what I wish every Heine would taste like.
Right?
Das ist
The
gut Scheiße.
Left Eye, Right Eye by Track 7 was particular to my taste.
Yep.
That double IPA, it sings to me.
Yeah, you know what's funny about the Left Eye Right Eye is it seems to only come in cans, which blows my mind. I've never had it in anything other than the can. Well, we
it
did
comes
have
in
it.
bottles.
Well, we had it in
Well,
the
we-
keg.
We had it in the keg.
Yeah.
The keg.
I have 22s at
Oh,
home.
you have?
Yeah, Costco
Okay.
sells them.
So you have to buy the 22s.
Yeah, it's a 22.
Okay, but when we had it in the keg, that was the first time I'd introduced it to it in the kegerator, and it was phenomenal. Yeah, it's definitely
it's
one of my
good.
favorite.
Under the
Very
top.
user friendly.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed that. And
Have a drink.
Yeah, and have a drink. There it is.
Cheers.
Show notes and other info can be found at our website, greatdistraction.com. The Great Distraction is listed in iTunes, and we greatly appreciate it when our listeners take the time to look us up and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps our show grow and motivates us to continue producing content. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so using the email address, greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com, or via our website. We're always interested in hearing any thoughts, comments, or questions from our listeners. Keeping up on the latest from us can be done in several different ways. You can add us to your favorite RSS feed tracker. The link is available on our website or in iTunes. Or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Great Distraction, one word, no space. As always, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support.